welcome to this meeting of the West Craven Area Committee, which is a working meeting of Pendle Council, deals with planning and stuff like that. I'm going to welcome, we've got 3 speakers who have come to speak on the planning application. I'll just check that they're here. I've got Rob, Liz and Carl.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And we have 2 gentlemen who've come from Northern Power Grid to discuss one of the items on the agenda. And I'm not familiar with your names, but if you just want to introduce yourselves.
Mike Hand.
Mike.
And Phil Bax.
And Phil.
Phil Bax.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask members of the committee to introduce themselves around the room. So, my name is David Whip and I chair the area committee. I'm councillor for Ely and Portsmouth. If I go to my left.
Good evening everyone, my name is David Walker, Assistant Director for Operational Services and Area Coordinator for West Craven.
Good evening, Neil Watson. I'm Assistant Director for Planning and some other services.
Good evening, Mick Strickland, Councillor for Barnoldswick. Evening, Chris Church, another Councillor for Barnoldswick.
Good evening, Susan Lamb, Councillor for Earby and
Councillor Tom for Barnoldswick.
Mandarin for the Town Council.
John Nichols, a Committee Administrator at Pendle Council.
Thank you very much. John, do we have any apologies?
No.
Okay. Just to explain that several of us are councillors elected to Pendle Council. Amanda is a representative from the Town Council. She can participate fully in the meeting. However, she can't vote, and that's because of the legalities. I'm going to suggest that we just vary the order of business on the agenda. Item 13, unlucky for some, is the water pumping station. I'm going to take that immediately after we've dealt with the planning application, and that's in order for Mike and Phil there to get them back to wherever they belong. Rather than being stuck in Wild East as far as you're concerned, Wild West as far as you're concerned. We've got a couple of routine items, declaration of interest. Are there any interests that people need to declare of a prejudicial pecuniary nature? No? Okay. Item 2 is public question time, and this is where members of the public can raise any items on the agenda, that aren't on the agenda. Are there any public question time? We've got 2 ladies over here. Can you introduce yourselves and ask what question you have, please?
Diane Anderson, Councillor on Earby Town Council. Councillors would like to know if there is any enforcement action for the garage or whatever it is on New Road, which is full of derelict cars and has been for a very long time. Opposite the new...
Yeah. Right, this is New Road Garage site.
Yes.
Mr Watson, I'm not aware of any action. I remember going back over 30 years and having all sorts of dangers cleaned up on that site. It hasn't improved considerably in the meantime. Are we talking about the same one?
No, it's the... I don't actually know what it is because it's not open. It looks like a scrapyard on New Road. Next to where the tyre place is.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr Watson, do you know off the top of your head?
Chairman, it's not on the enforcement list here, that's as far as I'm aware up to date, so no. It isn't being enforced or looked at the moment that I'm aware of, but obviously if you brought that up so we can we can have a look at that, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. So we'll get it looked at. Are you aware that somebody has complained previously?
Yes, and I did speak to somebody from the planning department at the community centre on the I can't remember what it was called now, it's the same day as the master plan meeting.
Local
And
plan?
somebody had, from Pendle Council,
Right.
had tried to contact whoever owns it, but could never get a response or reply.
So it sounds like policy team rather than...
John, I know nothing. I'm not saying my staff. I don't know everything they do unless it's reported and you have there's an enforcement list comes round to the committee. It's not on there, so I assume it's not filtered. I know where it is now.
Yeah.
I'm in the office tomorrow. I'll raise it with the enforcement officer and take it from there, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Sorry, I'm going to put the bathroom. Yes.
Hi.
Do you want to introduce yourself, please?
I'm Rebecca Robinson. I'm on the Town Council for EAB. I want to bring up safety on the parks, if that's okay. My child and her friends went down to Cemetery Park and found a lady nag that was stuck in a tree.
Sorry, where was this?
Cemetery Park in EAB.
The play area?
The play area, yeah.
Right.
Found a bladed knife with a lot of blood around it, dog collar and other things. Now, we had a bit of an argument with one of our neighbours about playing ball, and the police came round and basically said to us that the children should be playing at the park. Now, how can our children play safely at a park when there's things like that lying about?
Okay. The parking question will be the responsibility of EAB Town Council.
But would it not be a responsibility for everybody? Because it only takes that one person to use that park on a young child. And
Yes.
it's not just the park, it's not just that park, there's been a few incidents.
Right. Sorry, your question was about safety in parks, play areas. The play areas are the responsibility of the Town Council. So in the first instance, I think it would be for the Town Council to take action, and obviously that would include reporting to the police. Sorry, it's Diane just
I'm just making notes of what you're saying. So, to report it out.
We did report it to the police,
Okay,
but nothing was
okay,
done.
yeah.
I think it should be.
Well, obviously it's a considerable concern.
Right.
Sorry, obviously it's of considerable concern, and the most appropriate agency is the police. And then, you know, if there are issues about management of the play areas, you know, I think that's something the Town Council needs to consider.
Right, okay.
I don't think Pendle Council has any role.
No. Could they not come and do like a sweep?
Sorry,
A sweep of the park for bladed weapons?
well, I mean,
I see the council van going up and down, but I don't know what it does.
okay. I mean, I think in the first instance, you know, in the play areas, I mean, in Salterfirth and Kelbrook and Barnoldswick, you know, the first port of call is with the parish or the Town Council. And, you know, certainly I'm aware that, you know, it would be those local councils that would be taking action. I'm sure that...
Can I just interject and
well,
say,
no,
I think
I'm
we've
sorry,
got
I'm answering the other lady.
I'm new to all this, though.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, I think as a Town Council you need to be looking at it.
Right.
I'm looking to my left to Mr Walker, who runs the Environmental Services, and I don't know whether you can assist, David?
Thank you, Chair. And we will visit the parks and the playgrounds on a fixed schedule during the week, and obviously if there are antisocial behaviour activities taking place and we see signs of it, we will obviously alert the appropriate agencies. So we can assist in obtaining information should it be there. And obviously I'll make the operatives aware that you're spotting things of this nature and while they're there just to pay particular attention. But there's nothing specific we can do in relation to increasing the frequency of visits or anything of that nature, I'm afraid. We can simply report as you do to the appropriate agency.
Okay. Is that,
Yeah.
well, not satisfactory?
Yeah.
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 Thank you very much. Could I just check, are there any further questions from members of the public? No. We will move on. The next item is police and community safety issues, and I think this could have been raised. Oh, sorry. Have I missed a minute? Right. Yeah. Right. Minutes of last meeting. Will somebody move them to the correct record? Thank you very much. Moved and seconded. Yeah, there's an appendix or an annex, as it were. Thank you very much. Right. Sign those off. Thank you. Right, we'll now go on to police and community safety issues. Unfortunately, no police here. We did get an email the other day, which I don't seem to have with me, but essentially the local neighbourhood sergeant, sorry. No, right. Well, the local neighbourhood sergeant has told the committee members that there's no big update in terms of the action that's been asked for at previous meetings. He referred to some concerns about nuisance or disorderly behaviour in the centre of Barlick, in terms of young people, and Mr. Walker's very kindly got it up on the screen now. He said Barnoldswick violent crime is slightly elevated compared to last year, but this is likely to be accounted for by the change in the recent crime classification, and that burglary residential is now 2 incidents, not 3, as one of the crimes has been reclassified. There's burglary other than a dwelling, stolen bikes from a lock-up, it reports that Neil Wallin and the team have worked hard to engage with the local youth during the month and have not had any issues at all in Evie, Barnoldswick, Salford, Bressel or Kelbrook. He is aware of some separate minor issues that were reported by email, parking issues and drugs intelligence, which they are looking at, and will ensure that officers feedback a suitable update. It's now been decided to move PC Tom Schofield into the West Craven Community Beat Manager post from the 1st of May. If there are any police-related items, he's happy for those to be reported back to him or any of the team. So I would start off by saying that the issue raised about a bladed weapon being found is one that we will forward with utmost priority so that we can take that up. Could I ask colleagues if there are any comments on the crime figures which have been provided?
Nothing further,
and if there are any further community safety related matters that people want to pick up. No, we look forward. Sorry,
We
Shannon.
had something messaged through to our parish council, which was they have reported it to the police, but there'd been some minor vandalism, I believe, to the bowling pavilion at Suf Park. We don't know when it had happened, but they'd look up the email. They'd just messaged us with the information that that had happened. It had been reported to the police, and the police had recommended that they contact Ryan. I believe they got it on a sort of lease contract, haven't they, that little pavilion.
Yeah.
So that's just to know that that
Okay.
did happen in Suf Park. I'll just find
Thank you, Sharon. The issues of note in Barnoldswick, there's continued vandalism to the town council's toilet block, where youths have been destroying the disabled toilet door and causing damage inside. And last Friday night, I think it was, the plaque that Eco Barnoldswick had installed in the bus stop planting on Station Road had been destroyed, and trying to put it back together. But I think that's been reported to the police secretary.
They said this was just set in a cracked window, and it looked like they tried to kick the door in.
Right.
Footmarks on the door.
Okay. So I think, generally problems in parks and play areas, the issues in the centre of Barnet that we've just referred to. Are there any other hotspot areas that we want to pass on? No? Okay. Anything further at all on that? If not, we're going to go on to the planning stuff. Yeah, thank you very much. Right, we have one planning application to determine, and this is retention of vehicle display / sales area with associated boundary fencing at land to the east of Stumpbank, Colne Road, Kelbrook. I have got 3 speakers. Could I just mention that there is a time limit of 5 minutes, and just ask you to stick within that. So I've got Rob Mercer, Liz Katif, and then Carl Mather. Either or. Mather. So, first of all, I've got Rob. You can speak from there, or if you want to come to one of the chairs at the front.
Yeah,
if you come to the front, you will be on camera.
That's all right. Well, I don't know if you guys have seen the sort of objection letter that I put in. I don't know how planning works. I have no idea. This is all new to me. I have got some handouts here that show the work past
Nothing round. Just back from there.
Quite a few.
It's look at all together.
Well, probably just have a look through.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't show it on that map. I live directly behind this development. We moved there about 3.5 years ago. And I'd like to talk about the supplementary statement which the consultant has put in. It seems to attempt to quash all the points I've raised in my objection and seems to belittle them, to be honest. Now, the amenity green space, now it shows on the map, it sort of insinuates that the green area in front of my property falls into this. It's in fact my front garden. Now, when we first moved there, the front garden was overgrown. It was owned by an elderly couple, and we set about tidying it up. And there's a spot on there. It is on an embankment, but there's a flat area, and we cleared it out with chairs. I used to have a coffee there in the morning, and it was just a nice secluded spot. And the thing is that the map also suggests that the grey area, I've marked that as B, in fact, and almost looks like hard standing on the map. However, that was a very densely wooded area, so that created a real shelter for the front garden and made it secluded as to what it was. And the Millennium Gardens, despite what it says in there, it was maintained right up to its demise by Lancashire County Council. It was a spot that I personally used. I used to meet up with my friends over the road, motorbikes up to the Yorkshire Dales. And when we moved there, it was still used after that. Cyclists, dog walkers and other people would use it, and it was in good condition. The pictures I put in, they're not Photoshop like some of the things in the news. They're real pictures. You can see them on Google Earth if you want to. And the proximity of the site to my property, it states that it's 30 metres, it's actually about 4 metres. The beck, it's the width of the beck to the front of my garden. Now, next door I have like a tiered garden. We'd always planned to do a similar thing, but we've just given up on the idea because it's now totally overlooked. Once the trees went, you were there, and basically the staff at the garage, the delivery people working there, they would come and they'd be looking down on us, and that's the overbearing factor, that's the overbearing factor in loss of privacy. And the intensity of use of the site, it has increased since caravans have arrived. There's again a picture there of them pressure washing. It was an every other day occurrence. It wasn't every day, but it was every other day. There was a cable across the driveway which we have access to get to our property. A 240 volt cable, just a simple extension lead, sort of thing that we all use, not sort of thing you want to drive over. And at the side of that was a hose pipe for feeding the pressure washer. Now all of this has stopped recently, the last 3 weeks I would say. I've noticed recent invitation for planning officers to come and view their operation, and it seems to coincide with that. The highways issue, we have a right of access across the land to get from our property. Now when we're leaving the property, if there's a nuisance or disruption to getting out, i.e. moving vehicles, then I understand that's a civil case, and the only winners there will be solicitors. However, when we're coming to the property, that I believe is a highways issue, because what happens is when it is blocked, we're stuck on Colne Road. I'm sure you all know Colne Road has been so-called 30 mile an hour, which everybody ignores, and then traffic backs up, people get impatient, and we've experienced this where you're looking in the mirror wondering what's going to happen, and people will go around the outside at speed. 1 minute. Right, okay. Opening hours on their website, which was Get Car Finance, it clearly shows 9 to 5, Monday to Saturday. So as long as we've been there, it's never been open Sundays, it's only just been open Sundays. At the end of the day, we live there. We have spoken with Carl at various points, nothing formal, but he's well aware of our upset and our concerns. But most importantly, what next? If this goes through, is there going to be stipulations on what that can be used for? Is there a possibility of any screening of the area so that we can get our privacy back in our front garden? It's been Get Car Finance, van sales, and then caravans in the 3.5 years we've been there. So what next? That's what we're working. Okay. I tried to get it to 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Not bad. Do I get 6 stage right?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Next speaker is Liz Kitty.
Thank you for the opportunity to discuss this. I'm Rob's partner and we both live at Shruttley Mount. We were in no knowledge that this had changed hands. And I work away a lot. I have a job and I'm coming back to Southampton. Went on Monday, came back on Thursday. The Millennium Gardens had gone and hard standing and cars were on it. With no knowledge whatsoever. According to people I spoke to in the village, everybody was convinced, oh, I couldn't possibly, no, of course they'll have planning. So when I came back in October, again, Southampton, where I work, the fence was erected, no knowledge of that whatsoever, and I knew that I should know from my job that I would know that there was a planning in there, and I did call planning to ask, and then it came out that planning also didn't know, and they also didn't know about the Millennium Gardens disappearing either. So that's where we are today because of my phone call, and it's just so distressing because, you know, we work so in horrendous jobs and we're planning to came to Kelbrook for the quiet life, and it's been ruined really. We have been in contact since the minute it changed from the Millennium Gardens with the owner, and he is well aware of our upset. He does say, yeah, I don't want to upset anybody, but the development still keeps going on. There is no consultation. We're only next door. We're there. We're both there. I walk out of there all the time, and it's difficult. It's our only garden, and we have so much plans for that. We had to rip out so much bramble that was damaging. We went through hell to get that to where it is now, and it's just completely been ruined. Just some, you know, common sort of acknowledgement to the, you know, our neighbours. There were only two of us back there. If there was a village, it might be a different experience for other people. But because there were only two houses, and we're both upset by it. Also, as well, the fact that the 18 months is just before the pure fact that we had no idea it was going on. Nobody believed in the village that he wouldn't have planning permission. Sorry, I'm digressing a bit from this. And highways again, the issue with the trying to get in, it's frightening. When they fly around that corner from the Craven heifer, it's quite a blind spot when you're going at speed, and then suddenly they're throwing anchors on and you're there praying that they don't hit you. It's not nice. The sound, now it does say that you can see that there's dense trees and bushes there prior, and now there's absolutely nothing. It's absolutely ludicrous that it wouldn't make a sound difference. It's not just the sound, but before you could hear people in the Millennium Gardens, but it was conversations, it was chit-chatter. Now it's screaming and shouting between workers of, you know, instructions of how to do work. There's jet washing, there's contractors coming and going, delivery vans coming and going. It is a constant, and it has got worse month on month since October. It's quite accelerated since October. But yes, everybody's been on best behaviour the last few weeks. And it's really just, we're worried to death. Yes, there have been no complaints, but we've been talking directly to the owner. Didn't know you could complain about noise. I do now know from this, but and we'll, you know, obviously look into that. But it's just been with very little care of the people that he's neighbours with, and we've always been very friendly with the owner. And it's just very upsetting now, and it's. You walk down your drive and your heart sinks, you think, oh, you know, okay. We had so much plans, and it's been taken away from us from no fault of our own, and just a bit of privacy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carl Mather, again, do you want to speak from there or come forward?
I'll be alright here, I think, to be honest, if that's alright. Obviously, my name is Carl. I do buy the land with the intention of extending the business slightly. I think, I don't want to get into everything's been crammed in there to what we do and what we don't do. It's a very different picture. If anyone ever wanted to come down, it's a very, very different picture to what's being created. I don't want to get into the ins and outs, but I mean, the postman that leaves his post vehicle there while he walks up the lane to drop their parcels is more disruption than we ever cause. It's literally moments. If somebody's delivering something, they pull in, as you can see on that picture there, it's very tight. We've got a couple of cars parked there. You have a lane with a load of like falling down garages. And you just don't really have much room. You need to hold it up so much. And I think I'm just starting to learn as you get older. I started my business at 21. I'm just being a young guy with a dreamer, doing something. But what I realise now, nearly 40-year-old, is it doesn't matter what you do, you can't keep everyone happy. I'm really sad to hear that they're not happy. But, you know, I've got a business and I've got a lot of staff to care for as well. So totally understand what they're saying, but I think it's very jazzed up to the reality. I think it's more of a, they're not happy that they want it just how they want it. It's not going to be just how they want it, which I'm sorry for, but I spent a lot of money and, you know, a lot of resource to try and, well, help Kelvin come forward and give jobs and whatever else. But that's just my personal thing. I'll just say what we in the planning league agreed to say, but just so I get that out there. So my name's Colin and I'm the applicant of the development of Colin Road to extend my existing vehicle display area. We are grateful to the officer for their positive recommendation, which considers all of the relevant planning policies and confirms that the development raises no unacceptable issues in terms of land use, impact on neighbours or the highway safety. We have agreed to alter the height of the boundary fencing following feedback from the officer, and this will now be reduced to just 1 metre in height along the frontage. We know that concerns have been raised regarding the loss of open space which previously occupied part of the site. I can confirm that when we bought the site, the land was in poor condition, accommodating a number of dilapidated garages, household waste. There was a lot of waste there, hidden within the garages, and one broken bench by the end when I took bought the land. Nobody could use that bench, it only had 3 legs, and I keep getting told that people use that all the time, but it had 3 legs, so I wonder how. During our time occupying the main garage site, we did not witness, obviously as I was just saying, significant public use of the land and did not believe it to be particularly valued for that purpose. Can't for its condition. Position on the main road between two, and as they said, it's a very fast-moving pace road, and it's very hard to hear yourself even think when the cars are going past. So you're between a jet engine company and a car sales company, so it's probably not the most ideal place to be sat, if you know what I mean, with the traffic coming through. Obviously, it's a very small plot of land within very close proximity of the Euravia and the cells. The officer's report confirms that in this instance, the loss of open space is acceptable, with the council open space audit confirming that there is a surplus of amenity green space in this area. As such, there is no conflict with the relevant policies of the core strategy or the neighbourhood plan, and the application can be supported as a result. Retention of this display area allows us to sustain our business, which employs a number of local people and grow in a modest and proportionate manner. It is always our intention to be respectful to our neighbours in the way we run our business, and we will always continue to make all measures available to us to ensure there is no diverse impact. In light of all these issues, we respectfully ask that you concur with the recommendation of your officers and approve this application this evening. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you for keeping within time. Could I just ask, in terms of the purchase of the land, who was that bought?
Also, the gentleman that owned the house that they bought, we looked after them. They got the car from us. Originally, we just started looking after him, and I rented the old garages off him for numerous years before, obviously, these neighbours come along. So I used to just do the best I could with that land, but it was falling to bits. Literally one day you could just see a car.
Yeah. We rented it from him, and he always said, you know, one day he'd like us to purchase it from him and
yes, it was a very small area towards where your area is on that picture. There was more by the council, and there was maybe more benches in the past, but there was a singular bench with 3 legs that we moved.
So we're actually...
Yeah, thank you. Can't bring your link back in.
Yeah.
I was just wanting you to...
So yeah, basically I rented it, and then the gentleman sold it to me at a great premium, and it's cost me a lot of money to try and progress and make it a bit better. But like I say, you can't keep everyone happy.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions for either the original speakers or Carl? No. Thank you very much. We're going to deliberate now. We can't bring you back in, but thank you for that. Excuse me. Mr Watson, when we visited earlier this evening, you were just leaving the site. So what pictures have you put up? Because I'm stretch me neck round.
That was a Google Earth picture as it was about 2019, I believe. You can see there's a lot made about the garages. There was 2 or perhaps 3 you can't see. They were tucked under the tree. They were not prominent. They didn't look nice, so that's pretty clear. But you can see there's a dog bin there, and then there's a bench just behind that. Sorry, it's clearer on the picture here than it is on there. That's the iteration of it in between the last few months, where the original car says you can see the low fencing around there. And this is one I took this evening. You have, that's my red car there, and the site is beyond there, so you've got 2 metre-ish palisade fencing around that. And then you've got at the rear the back, and then the land slopes up to this Ladies and Gentlemen's property to the rear.
Okay, so the work that's been carried out has removed some of the trees at the back of the site adjacent to the back.
Chairman, there's a low stone wall. It didn't need permission to be taken down because it's not in a conservation area, but there was a wall there, some vegetation, and it's all been stripped back, so it's clean to about that far from the embankment from the deck.
Yeah. As I say, Councillor Tomlin and I did visit on our way here tonight and had visited it. So we did have a look from your property on Strongcliffe Bank. We didn't venture down into the garden bit at the bottom.
Chairman,
Okay.
Just that one point there. And then there's a point about amenity which you need to deliberate. My view is it's not garden. That's curtilage where you can own land, but it's not necessarily garden. There's no differentiation there to say it's an unkempt, nice area in front of the house. I understand that, but my view it's not residential curtilage. That is a very small area around your property, or an area around your property which is clearly defined as where you recreate, where you put your washing and your greenhouses or whatever up. This land in front of it is not that. It's not residential curtilage. It is land they own, but it's not part of that garden. So it is a point if you can deliberate about impact on the community.
Okay. Feel like we're dancing on the head of a pin if we're not careful. Right, I mean, there's no doubt that, you know, from personal observation, it was generally a pleasant green area next to the road, and, you know, the character has changed significantly in recent years, and I was a bit, you know, sort of jaw dropped when I first saw the palisade fence, which I, you know, thought was pretty awful, but I understand there's a proposal to amend the palisade fence to a lower one. I mean, frankly, I think it looks gross. So, committee members, Councillor Tomwick.
Thanks, Chairman. This approach into Kelbrook was sort of the best looking approach, in my opinion. And that green space certainly added the character of that. And the design of this now, with that palisade fence, even if it's reduced, is a detriment to that character of the village on the approach there. Whether we could control that with conditions, to an extent I would like, I'm not sure. I think it would be better with a more natural stone or a hedge instead of palisade fencing, either green or galvanised steel. So I wonder, Mr. Watson, if you've got any thoughts on that, if we can condition different materials.
Can I pick up the issue of the view from Strunkley Bank and whether, you know, that could be mitigated?
Chairman, it's probably not an answer that the residents will like. It's, the planning system protects public views, not private. To require an improvement to one person's private view to another person's private view isn't something the planning system can protect. It's the public views, as Councillor Tonga said, about what the street scene is like approaching. That's a public view. But one person, a private individual, is not entitled. For example, if you had a view of Pendle Hill, somebody built in front of that, they're not entitled to keep that view because it's one private matter to another. So it could be improved, Chairman, but my advice to you is that it's not a material issue to protect one person's private views to another. It is for the public views, but not for the private views.
Okay. Does that answer your initial question there?
I think, Chairman, if I may, and I won't speak for Councillor but I think you're asking, could the view from the front be mitigated by different designs? They can put a 1 metre high fence up anyway. I think you could put some better fencing and you could put a hedge up and something behind it. No doubt if it's a car lot, car sales or vehicles as it is, and they've got caravans on there, you'd want some security. But I think there's a way of better designing it where you can have planting at the front, behind which you can have fencing. So I think it could be done.
Okay.
Whether it's to your satisfaction or not, but something better could be done.
Okay. Councillor Strickland.
Like yourself, I went this afternoon and this evening I just looked up. I walk past there quite often and I am sympathetic to the conversation around the land towards Euralia being pretty well kept, but where the garages were on the edge of the lane and the immediate land around it was horrible. It were dropping in bits and there were just cars there, and it uses a dumping ground. I think it's mentioned in some of the comments that I read this afternoon off the public access Pendle.gov site. I think there's probably 24, I think, comments on that site. Only 4 are negative about what's happened. That side, I do get that when you drive around that corner now and you don't see any greenery, it does take it away a little bit, and I totally accept that. However, looking at it with a commercial head on, it continues the commercial flow through the area, through the concrete works on the other side, and then the garage on this side. And you kind of struggle to say, do we keep a small piece of grass and restrict commercial growth? I don't know. I sort of move that from side to side in my mind and think it would be nice to still have the grass at the end maybe, and maybe not as far down, but it is what it is. Totally agree with the fencing that was around it, but that's been addressed with planning to be reduced. I'm with Tom as well on how that 1 metre fence should look. If you look at other commercial caravan sites, when you go and look at them. They do have a little bit of greenery around them. They have a nice wall to offset what's being displayed there. I know we can't discuss it, but we can't really look at the view from the dwelling side of it. The pictures that I've seen, they're probably taken through autumn, and it's difficult to see when the trees and bushes are back in full bloom how much would need to be maybe planted there just to soften it a little bit back. I don't know, it's an option to look at, but it's difficult to look from the photos that we've got at the time of year we're at now to see how softened that might look.
Okay. I remember when Gilbert Burry, who lived at Struntley Bank, he was a councillor, and Gilbert owned a wood yard. Back in the day, we, Pendle Council, purchased part of Gilbert's land in order to build what was called an advance unit for commercial development, and the council only bought part of Gilbert's land holding along the roadside there, and he was still operating the sawmill, and he wanted a clause in the contract that allowed him to, if he got a long length of timber to saw, that he could actually walk onto the land that he'd sold in order to hold a piece of wood, which I thought was quite curious. Of course, the council didn't give him that. But I mean, I remember when, there wasn't Euravia, there was Gilbert's wood yard, and it was quite open, and obviously Euravia has been a significant development. But if you think about, as Councillor Tomwick said, coming from South into Calbrook, I thought it did benefit the area in breaking up the roadside development, and obviously on the opposite side of the road you've got what's it called, Church Meadow, where that triangular piece of land is open. So my view as a ward councillor is that if this application had come forward before any development had taken place, I would very strongly have been defending the green space and retaining that space, and I think it's unfortunate that all this has taken place without any a regulation or restriction, and that we are where we are today. So I think I would be putting forward the view that we should turn it down on the basis of the loss of that open space and that greenery, and we should try and defend the line. So I think there's slightly different views from different people. I'm looking across at Sharon to see whether from the Culbrook and South Parish Council point of view.
Our objection went in, and there were the two. The first one being the fence and the look of the fence, which wasn't improving. And the second one being the loss of the community space. And I know, historically, obviously, it was privately owned, and it was lawned as a millennium garden. And then when it was sold to yourself. And the council were given notice as it was sold at the Millennium Garden, and the benches and everything on there had to be moved off the site as it had been sold, and we no longer had the council. I wasn't on the council then, obviously, but they no longer had permission to use it. So anything notice, and then so obviously with the neighbourhood plan as it stands, I think I've read the report which says it's not named specifically as an amenity green space within that neighbourhood plan, but it is an amenity green space in Kelbrook, isn't it? And like I say, it's as you're driving along, and I get there was some, you know, garages towards the back of it. But yeah, you know, our objections along those same grounds. And obviously the fencing's been addressed, and if it does get addressed, and you know, and it is in there as a condition, then we haven't got that issue. But it would just be, like I say, just to build something green to look at as you're driving along that road again.
Thank you. Susan, Councillor Land, as a fellow ward councillor.
I agree, it was quite a shock whenever the green disappeared, and especially the fence. And yes, if it had come up before all that work was done at it, I think I would have been minded to turn it down too. But as we are now, I think certainly if it could be made to look better, so we're still encouraging business in the area and employment, then it's a bit of a fait accompli at the moment.
Well, I mean, I think we need to look at it as if it wasn't a fait accompli, and you know, if we feel strongly that you know, it shouldn't have happened, then we shouldn't give it permission. Otherwise, anybody will come along and do anything, and you know, we just shrug our shoulders and say, well, you know, tough. And I don't think that's the right way of going about stuff. But yeah.
I think there's presumably there's compromises to be made within the planning to sort of make sure that we're not trying to destroy somebody's business, but on the other hand, we're not also trying to upset neighbours, and we're not trying to take away things. You know, I think that's from our perspective, yeah, as it stands as an application, but there's things presumably that can be done in that application, which they have done already, haven't they, when it comes to the fencing.
Well, I mean,
You know,
no,
that's
they haven't done it.
No, they haven't, but what I'm saying,
within the
proposed it
application.
and changed it within the application. So within the, I don't know, again, I'm not an expert on this, but within the looking at it, is, you know, there's room to negotiate and compromise and put into place things that satisfies everybody's worries.
We, as a committee, we've got to make a decision on what's in front of us. We can't say, oh, well, you know, you could perhaps condition some things, but ultimately it is a decision on what's in the plan. I've got Mick and then Tom.
Yeah, just a couple of things. First one is, what possibly will be the reason that notice were given to Calbrook Parish Council for them to vacate that land, but it never made it to West Craven for discussion?
Well, it wouldn't. I think it was looked after by Calbrook and Sub Parish Council, who had, you know, made an area with the benches and, you know, the Millennium thing.
I just think if somebody came to us, the Barnoldswick Town Council, and said, the green space that we're looking at here, we need to vacate it because we're going to extend our business on it, or for whatever reason they've given, I would have hoped it would have made its way through to the area committee for discussion. I mean, well, I just wondered if there were any reason, I just wondered if there wasn't one.
I mean, I don't know a reason, and it was way before my time as a councillor. I've just seen the letter in the paperwork I've seen is a letter from the previous owners just saying that, I can't remember properly what it says, but just saying that you need to vacate that. That's some of my knowledge about it, sorry.
Yeah, Mick, there was a period when no one wanted to stand for Calbrook and Sub Parish Council. I don't know whether this coincided with the land transfer, but the three Pendle councillors for the ward, Ely ward as it was then, were parachuted in to keep the parish council going, and I don't know whether that all overlapped with it, but there was a period when there wasn't any effective parish council at all.
Right, okay.
So if it coincided with that, you know, maybe it's just slipped between the cracks.
The second bit, I fully get the discussion around, you know, how this comes as a new planning application, you know, we're probably looking at it a little bit differently, but going backwards, you know, it's something that we're all love to do, we're all love to, you know, protect green spaces that have been built on over the years and stuff like that. If we could go back, what has happened is there's been from the way I see it, there's been a significant amount of investment in that. There's an option to potentially meet between the residents and the business to soften the way that it looks, to still operate as a commercial business. I don't know, it doesn't sit very comfortable when we just go right, we're going to go right back to the beginning and we're just going to knock it off the table, because I feel we're a little bit too far down the line for that. I think what we should be focusing on is how we can make what we've got now much more aesthetically pleasing from the village view and from the residents' view.
Okay. I mean, I'll bring Tom in, but I mean, if that's the general view of the committee, then I would suggest that we defer this for the planning officers to discuss with the applicant how the proposal could be mitigated in order to make it more acceptable. Tom.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there is a version of this application that is acceptable in its design. I don't think what we have before us tonight is it. I think if it's a case of this or not, I would vote not at its current design. However, I do see a way that we could compromise. I think we should be giving that option to the developer, to the applicant, to reconsider the design that would be more acceptable. I mean, I would see the fence not be right against the pavement there. If there's a small setback, some soft landscaping, I think the design would be much more acceptable, and I would then vote that we accept that application. So, I mean, I would move that we defer this, maybe hope for an extension of time agreement with the applicant to seek a better design and bring it back to a further meeting.
Okay. Right. Then we'll sort of nod to the centre of that. Mr. Watson, is that a decision that you can work with?
Yeah, absolutely, Chair. Yes, defer it. I think there are things in the scheme as the fencing that does need to be improved. You want to see those before you make a decision. I'm more than happy with that, Chairman.
Okay. In amongst there, somebody did mention the views over the back, and yeah. So, despite the fact that Mr. Watson says, you know, that's a private view.
I totally get that. And it would be nice.
Yeah.
It would be nice to think that both parties could discuss that.
Yeah. All right. So the proposal is that this is deferred for discussions between the applicant and the planning officers, with a view to bringing it back and hopefully achieving a more acceptable design. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Okay, is that clear what the decision is? Yeah. Right. We've got another couple of planning issues to deal with. First of all, looking for the pink sheet, which is buried. We've got a report about planning appeals. Can we note that?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And then secondly, we've got a list of enforcement action and details there of where we're at with each of those. Any questions or comments? Will somebody move it? Seconded, thank you very much. Right, I'm going to bring item 13 forward now. Gentlemen, you've been sitting there patiently for the last hour. We'd very much like you to join us at the front of the room. Are there 2 chairs there? Yeah. Okay. So, if you could introduce yourselves once more. The item that we're discussing on the agenda is the interruptions to the power supply which affect the water pumping station on Carford Road, Barnoldswick. And we had hoped that we'd have had Yorkshire Water here as well, because certainly in terms of the loss of water to 1,725 properties on multiple occasions since the beginning of the year, they are culpable together with Northern Power Grid, and you're going to tell us why the power is going on. So, if you want to introduce yourselves, say what your position is, and then we can get into a bit of a discussion. Thank you.
So thank you for giving us some time this evening. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Mike Hammond. I'm the General Manager for Northern Power Grid's North Yorkshire region. So that stretches from Scarborough in the east over to here in the west, up to Middlesbrough in the north and to Craven in the south. So we cover all of that network. So I'm accountable for basically anything that happens to that entire electrical distribution network. And then Phil?
I'm the faults manager for that area, so I look after the faults within that region.
So Phil spends all of his day chasing down any fault that happens. Unfortunately, that does happen. So although we have a distribution network which comprises of overhead lines, poles and wires in the air, and underground cables, it would be nice if when we laid them and installed them, they just worked perfectly. Well, unfortunately, they don't. Various reasons. Obviously, with an extensive overhead line network, when we get bad weather, we can only expect that asset to stay in the air under certain circumstances. When you get wind above 70 miles an hour and you get ice secretion, then unfortunately that adversely affects our overhead lines. When you get people digging in the street and not looking at where all the utilities are in the footpath, then unfortunately we get people that interact and damage our assets, which then causes loss of supply. Also, our assets, like everybody else's assets, age in time. So at some point we have to judge what the right time is to replace an asset when it becomes at the end of its life, and we should do that before it causes inconvenience to our customers. Because the last thing that I want is for you to be without your lights. Okay? When you are without your lights, we do what we can, and Phil's going to explain some of this in a minute. We do what we can to get you back on supply as quickly as possible. Okay? So the problem that we have at the minute, we've got an LV circuit between
low voltage,
Buttsmill, low voltage, a low voltage, that's 415, 240 volts to individual premises. We've got a circuit between Buttermill substation and Sycamore Way. We have a fault on that circuit, okay? It has faulted at least 6 times since January, middle of January through to the end of February. Problem with it is, what normally happens with a fault is the cable will go down to earth and it'll basically blow itself up. It'll blow itself open, as in a complete break in the cable, which then means you're off supply until we absolutely fix it. We have then means of locating on distance where that fault is, and we're then able to dig down, put a joint in, put a piece of cable in, fix it, we go on. Those are faults that the majority of times that happens. Minority of times, we get something happening on our cable that faults and then heals itself. Faults and then heals itself. Now, that can be a joint, likely to be a joint, or simple water ingress into an aging cable. So when that happens, it's quite frustrating. And that's why we've had so many occasions. If you notice, you were, I think the most you've been off on the 6 times is about 2.5 hours. That's the time it takes for one of our operatives to get to the substation and replace the fuse. Because the local substation, which transforms the electricity supply from high voltage 11,000 volts through the transformer, which is located in the street on a kiosk, to then feed out on the low voltage network. In there's a fuse associated, 3 fuses associated with every low voltage circuit. So the fact that the fault has blown one of those circuits means that we have to come. The first thing we do is simply replace the fuse. 9 times out of 10 in this case, that fuse stays in with no fault. What have we got to find? It's really, really frustrating, and I can only apologise for it. It is one of the most frustrating parts of his job, and frustrating from my perspective in terms of the customer service that we give, because that's not what we want to do. So, however, we have, and Phil's brought one with him, we have a secret agent that we deploy in these circumstances. Do you want to talk about your toy?
So we can use various amounts of things to re-energise supply, and this is called the Bedoin. So we fit this.
It's called
Bedoin. I don't know where the name comes from. I asked the people that made it.
It's a very short Bedoin.
Yeah, I asked the person that supplies them to me where the name comes from, and he said, actually, I don't know. So yeah, Bedoin. So basically, what this does, it's an intelligent fuse. And it allows us 2 operations. So the fuse will go, and then it puts in a secondary fuse. So it's got 2 fuses in here, one in the front here and one in the back. And a normal distribution fuse way would just have 1 fuse. So there would be a fault underground, whether that would be an old damage that somebody hadn't reported, as Mike said, because sometimes people damage cables and they don't actually report them because they think, well, that's going to cost us some money, we'll just leave that there and hopefully no one will find out about it. And about 3 or 4 months later or something, it blows up, causes you a fault, everybody's saying, flipping Northern Power Grid, well actually it was the gas board or somebody that damaged it. I won't say the gas board, but anybody that's been digging in the area, because sometimes they don't like to report damages. It's not always that, sometimes it's our fault that's causing a problem. So it causes a problem, it blows the fuse, but what this does then, it sends us intelligence to say where the fault is. And we'll go out and drill down into the footpath and sniff in those locations. So it sort of sends a signal up to, I don't know what it does here, but it sort of sends a signal up to the fault location, back to the substation. We've got a device plugged into this machine that's sort of, and this is, all of these are on the different fuse ways, and then that device sends a signal back to our control room and back to my telephone and my email to say, oh, we've got a distance to fault, and then we'll get in touch with somebody, right, can you go out to Buttsmill substation, one of our devices is triggered an operation there. So we'll go out and we'll change the 1 fuse that we've got sat in here, because it's reliant then on the second fuse. So it doesn't go off supply, it just sends a signal to say, oh, the fuse is blown. But the only trouble is, you're probably thinking, why didn't you fit these straight away on this LV panel? Well, because it's non-standard, unfortunately. The panel up at Buttsmill is non-standard. All of these will get changed over time. So what we ended up doing was, because it was causing a lot of issues, and the water place was going off something like they should have had a backup generator, but Michael will no doubt talk about that in a minute or something. That was going off supply loads and we were getting quite a few complaints, so what we thought is, we have to start thinking about doing something else here to mitigate all of these complaints and try and do something about it. So we fed it from a different substation through a link box, which we're also able to do. Only trouble is then, if you do that and it still blows the fuse, it knocks more people off, probably about double the amount of people off. So you get more complaints and more people concerned about it. Actually, what's happened in this instance is, we've done that, we've moved the circuit round the other way to allow us to fit these fault-finding equipment, because the board at the other place at Buttsmill was non-standard, but Sycamore it wasn't, so we fed it from there via a link box on Cavendish Road? Cavendish Street, yeah.
So just stop there for a minute. So let me just walk you back through how our network operates, okay? So as Phil says, we've got a substation on one end and a substation on the other. The cable that goes between the two of them is not continuous. It breaks in the middle at what we call a link box, okay? So that link box is open, all right? So you've got two circuits that are feeding from either end, all right? So one half will be fed out of Butts Mill, the other half fed out of Sycamore's Lake, okay? So the one out of Butts Mill is the problematic one, okay? If I go into the LV, what we call the low voltage board, it has single fuses in them, very similar to what you have in your consuming unit at home. In fact, if you were to have an old-fashioned consuming unit, it looks more like that with the cartridge fuses, okay? But these are big fuses. That's the fuse, yeah? And the ones in the substation actually are bigger, okay? So when that fuse blows, the only thing we can do is send a guy, as Phil says, to put another fuse in, okay? Hopefully that holds, right? And if not, if it blows again, then we've got to go physically find where the fault is.
Yeah.
There's various ways of doing that. One is walking the route. Because if you walk the route, you'll sometimes see the footpath, the slabs lifting. Because there's an explosion underneath it. So it lifts the footpath. It's not dangerous because it's 450 mils an hour, but it does have power, and you can hear also, if you stood and somebody puts the fuse in and it blows, you can hear the thump as well. So years ago we used to walk around with the old-fashioned that was in with the stick to the floor. Phil then said something about sniffing. I was surprised nobody asked that question. When a cable breaks down, it releases gases. Okay, those gases are only present for a very short period of time. So if we can understand where the distance is, we can quickly drill a hole in the footpath, put what we call a sniffing probe down, and let the meter sniffs to say whether those gases are present. Okay? So, that technology, just having a fuse, is very old-fashioned. It's just done. Okay? We've worked with, our industry has worked with this manufacturer and some others to create something which is more intelligent. And it tries to restore supplies quicker. So as Phil said, this has a little auto recloser in it. It has another fuse. Okay? So that fuse, we take the fuse out of the substation, we put this unit to replace that fuse. This whole unit replaces a single fuse. There is the fuse, so that's the primary fuse. Okay? So if there's a fault, that fuse will blow. This unit says, oh, that's blown, so I've now got an integral fuse, or the circuit breaker, that closes. So it immediately restores your supply. So that gets rid of the inconvenience. And then there's the intelligence in it that looks down on this cable and says, in actual fact, and it's very sophisticated, I don't understand it all, but I use the technology. It says 14 metres down that cable is the fault. So that's when we go snip. So we can very quickly find it. Okay. Now, this technology can be applied to there's all different types of low voltage boards. Over the years, different manufacturers. Unfortunately, the one, as Phil said, at Butts Mill, we can't put these on. It's really good. So what we've done to enable to do that, we've gone to the other end if we can. And to do that, so we've put these now in at the other end, the Sycamore Lane. But we've got to then change the way the circuit runs by closing the middle together and opening at the other end. So we run it as one circuit now from Sycamore, so we can use this equipment to find where the fault is. That's where we are. Very good.
And it's really quieted down since then. Because the length of the feed is a lot further, the resistance of the cable's a bit more, and it takes a little bit more to blow those fuses. So quite often when you do that, sometimes it doesn't sort of blow the fuses, and that's exactly what's happened. We fitted that device on the 29th of the 2nd. We had no operation since, and we've had no distance to fault from Caltech. That's the company that we use to get our distance to fault. They sometimes give us distance to fault from that piece of equipment. When the fuse blows, it'll send a message to me saying, "Oh, go sniff at these locations." Okay. We've had nothing since.
So very good. Effectively, what we are doing now via this equipment is continuously monitoring that cable. Right. And the moment that it faults, 24 hours a day, we'll be able to respond to it.
Very good.
We're just waiting, unfortunately,
For a fault.
for it to go down.
Very good. I'm sure that the properties immediately affected by the power supply failures will be delighted that you don't have a fault, so you can work out where the fault is. And the 1,725 people who lose the water supply will be equally delighted that, I mean, some get a jackpot because they lose the electric and the water. Other people just lose the water, you see.
I must admit, I do experience this quite a lot when we speak to other parish councils.
We're not a parish council, we're a borough council.
Unfortunately, I don't own and operate the Yorkshire Water.
No.
What all I'm saying is, there is a common theme here that a pumping station should have a battery, should have a generator battery.
Yeah.
And they should be maintained and they should work. So if, in terms of your water supply, I don't believe you should see any because my power network goes down, you shouldn't see any discontinuity.
Yeah, the backup supply has failed and has failed consistently on all the occasions when your supply went down. So, it has been bad news. And the last time we had this situation, it was for an extended period of time. There was a supply failure, there was a big substation went down and power was off for most of the day. And again, the Yorkshire Water backup generator didn't work. So we had a position where we had, best part of 2,000 houses didn't have water, and we had half the town, well, more than half the town that didn't have power. So, but that's going back a bit. Right. I've got councillors wanted to come in. Councillor Tom Witt.
Yeah, thank you very much for the explanation on your fault finding process. I mean, in my work, I've diagnosed electric bikes, so I know exactly where you're coming from. With fault finding, intermittent issues specifically.
Well, the worst ones, aren't they?
They are indeed. I mean, obviously you're using a different substation now. Is there a plan in place to replace that substation at the Butts?
Oh, I've just signed that one off.
It will be in time, yes. We're talking about a piece of land actually, but yes, obviously, years ago we used to just replace assets by a time elapsed. So the manufacturer would say 40 years, it's got an age of 40 years, we would replace it 40 years. Intelligence would say, look at the condition of the asset, because that's more financially efficient for UK PLC, but I don't have to spend as much money if I get more life out of my asset. So we look at them on a condition basis. We inspect some stations every year, look at their condition and make a view of when we should be replacing it. So at some point, what we do need to do is look at the replacement of that LD board so that we can use these at the other end as well. So that we are currently investigating, but obviously there's a priority order for the expenditure that we
Mike, we've just signed off a land application for a new substation at Butts Mill, which is in connection with the redevelopment of the mill. Currently the substation is housed in a masonry structure, which will eventually get knocked down, and literally.
So is that the redevelopment of the building that's caused that?
Yes.
Rather than
So I assume you get a new substation at the cost of Phil Ross.
Potentially to develop, yes. If the developer wants us to move our assets, then yes. That gets paid for. So that
isn't it?
Well, whichever way, to be frank, whichever way, if the substation's come to the end of its life, then we are every 5 years we make a plan to Ofgem through the government for enough money in our business to replace all of the assets that need replacing. Because our job is to make sure the lights stay on. And to do that, we have to replace assets in a timely manner. So the government is very keen and scrutinising our plans about what our we call them health indices of our assets. So what condition our assets are in, and then so they scrutinise that with us. We have basically a great long list of substations based on their condition that we're changing, and we get funded for that. If something gets changed with the development, then one might get changed
slightly ahead of his time, but that will be because of the need of the developer for us to move. So that's paid for. So, yeah, there's various ways of getting it.
Another thing then, I know through sort of talking to people, the issues with losing the power, I know they can claim back from the energy company, but that doesn't seem to have any sort of automatic process. They have to apply for that retrospectively, and they need to provide how long it's been out. Obviously, you guys have that information. You know how many properties have been affected. You know for how long. Is there no way that Northern Power...
Are you talking to the supply company now?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
But is there any way you provide that information to residents and then they can properly apply for...
Well, the supply company has all of the... We don't have the information about what units a customer's taking. Okay? So if it's a deal about them being remunerated for loss of units, it would only be with the supply company. We have a set of guaranteed standards which if we break, then in terms of duration of outages, then we pay automatically. We do not, within the distribution business, we don't, unlike British Rail, you don't have to come claim from us, we'll pay you. It's on us to know, as you said, we're the ones who know which people have been off, so we have a duty to compile that list and then pay whatever regulatory fines are associated with that.
So it doesn't appear that that's happened as of this moment? For the customers affected in the area, Chris, are you part of that bit?
No, I think this is outside the powers plant.
There's two guaranteed standards that work with interruptions. One is multiple interruptions and one is 12 hours. So I have 12 hours. Once your lights go off, I have 12 hours to get your lights back on. At that point, then I start paying you cash.
Right.
Okay? There is a multiple interruptions one as well, okay, which will feed back the details to you all.
Okay.
But it's multiple interruptions in a 24-hour period. Okay.
Right.
So, and yeah, those are guaranteed standards that are developed by Ofgem, but we don't develop those. They're imposed upon us as a level of customer service that the government expects through it doing all of its surveys with customers and what customers they expect. So when it gets, it's therefore defined when it becomes unacceptable and therefore we pay. So if anybody has broken the guaranteed standard, which in this case we won't do because you haven't been paid. Again, there's a regulation that forces us to pay, and we have to report when we've paid and if we've missed paying, because if we've missed paying, we get fined again. So that we make sure that doesn't happen.
That's
very rigorous.
Okay.
I will feed back to you. I'll take the action to come back to you with the absolute details of the multiple interruption.
I mean, there's more than one business in the area affected, but certainly one business contacted us, and it's a salon. Within the salon, they have individual tables, people doing different things, and they got to the stage where they were frightened to start doing a treatment because if the power went off, they couldn't complete the hair, whatever it may be. And you're talking about 6 individual businesses within the larger business that were badly affected.
I have great sympathy, believe you me, for all types of businesses within our region. We are a key supplier of supporting economic growth and the economics of our entire region. So that's why we put so much effort into investing in equipment like this and investing in guys who can come and deal with this quickly. This situation is a difficult one, no doubt. And we are not liable for loss of compensation.
Can I ask colleagues if there's any further questions about the Carfall Road issue? Chris?
Thank you. Just very briefly, do you have any rough idea of timescale for the other substation?
Substation. Substation takes us about, I'll tell you the longest piece is the bit you've already done, which is finding a piece of land. Finding land, and it's only like five square metres, very difficult nowadays. The fact that we have secured them on this case, it will be 6 months. No.
Right.
Should be. Again, I can check when that's programmed in and give you the date.
That takes me on to two other issues.
Yes.
The first issue isn't the Butts Mill substation, but the substation at the rear of the former Yorkshire Bank, which supplies the town centre area. And several years ago now, Northern Power Grid approached the council asking if there was a plot of land that substation could be relocated to. And the reason that Northern Power Grid wanted to replace it was that it's inadequate for the load now, and the existing location isn't big enough to put a new substation into. So, question not for now, but to come back with, is that still a live, sorry, pardon the pun, issue?
It will. It never goes away.
Can we have a dialogue about that?
Yes.
And then the other thing, which is Council Landon, my ward, in the Gill Meadows area, we've got a 33 kVA supply that comes from the substation at Salterford, Mucky Lane, Salterford, and it goes into the substation at Bankfield, and that supply, overhead supply, is on steel poles, and we were told again a few years ago that the poles needed to be replaced. My understanding is that the current plan is to put part of that supply underground, and associated with that, last year before, the steel poles near the houses all had cling film wrapped round them, and we just wondered why you'd wrapped cling film round them, because nobody knew, and it was a big job because you had to put scaffolding up and wrap the cling film round, and the cling film was deteriorated and some of it's streaming in the wind.
Plastic shroud and stuff, doesn't it? Put out.
Yeah.
It sounds like. Rather than cling film. Was it colour?
Yeah, call it cling film.
Yeah,
Not like cling film.
we put some sort of shrouding around it to lengthen its life, to stop it being further corroded. I'm not aware of that scheme, I must admit. Apologies for not being aware of it. It sounds like it's the primary substation with 30 kVA red line. So,
well, again, 33 kVA going in, and then there's 11,000.
It's on kVA.
Yeah,
so we'll go and investigate that and bring you back a full synopsis of what we do, what work we are planning to do there, and the timescales for that. I can do
Lovely.
That's not a problem.
Okay. Are there any further questions? Can we thank you both very much? Where have you travelled from and where are you going back to?
I'm from Boroughbridge.
Boroughbridge?
I'm from just south of Allerton.
I
work in North Allerton, but yeah.
Okay.
But,
well, can we thank you both very much for coming on tonight? I can see you've got some meetings to leave with us.
Amanda White, who couldn't be with us today, who's my customer service manager, just asked me, this is some information about our priority services membership. In fact, I'll leave it with you, but it's about encouraging customers who might be vulnerable to join this membership, to join this group, such that when we do have priorities, we can deal with their preferentially. So I need those.
Thank you very much.
Information just to circulate, I would appreciate it.
Okay. Can I just get a close-up picture of you benoying?
Wait, I might go down that shroud and just have a quick look at it. Whereabouts is it?
Sorry, I'm pulling you a piece of kit here.
Sorry.
It's Meadow.
Where is it?
Meadow Way, just off Skipton.
How much was it worth?
Meadow Way in this village or in
Barnoldswick, just over the brow.
Meadow Way?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Skipton Road, give them a postcode, BB18 6H.
BB something.
Well, HN will take you to our house. but it's near our house.
I think
And the shrouding on the overhead line.
Yes.
Because sometimes we shroud them up when people are putting scaffolding up for it as a safety issue. Sometimes it's...
No, the scaffolding was put up to put the shroud on.
Right.
Yeah, and it...
Right, okay.
Yeah.
we've got a look on my
So,
6HU.
6HU.
Super.
lovely, and you know, it's on your way back, more or less. Right, can we thank you very much?
Thank you, Peter.
Delighted to see you. If you're leaving this with us, we'll put it.
We'll put it in the substation.
Yeah. Thank you. That took less than half an hour, but I'm impressed that we got the general manager.
Yes.
So I'm not complaining.
That's fine.
Thank you very much.
That's fine. Thank you.
Right, we're going to go back, colleagues, to... I've put the wrong glasses on now. Back to item 7. Sorry. Well, they're free to go if you want to go. If you're interested, you're very welcome to stay.
Are we going to touch base on that again? Or?
No, we don't want to do any more discussion tonight.
Right.
So it'll be outside the meeting. So we're going to deal with the other items on the agenda now. So item 7, we're just noting that we've allocated all the funds. We haven't defrayed all the funds because some of the money is allocated to schemes that haven't been implemented. Right. Item 8 is the Traffic Liaison Committee, and I understand there's some issues that people want to raise over and above the items listed on here. The first one I've got is New Road at Earby, where there is regular parking on the yellow lines and obstructing the dropped crossing adjacent to the co-op. And I understand that there was actually a parking enforcement agent, if that's what we call them, there today, which may have ameliorated the situation, but I think if we can pick that up with the county council as a problem location. Tom?
Yeah, just on that, I think there's an issue of double yellow and pavement parking throughout Barnoldswick area, etc. And I'm featured quite heavily in parking watching areas, a Facebook page on bad parking. Left out the expletive in title of that. Yeah, so if we could get more enforcement action around pavement parking issues in West Craven, that'd be great. Chair.
Okay. So there's a specific there and then a general issue. Speaking of books, were you wanting to raise the issue down there?
Well, it's back to the garage site as well, I think. That's how continual leaving cars for prolonged periods of time on the carriageway. There's a couple of Land Rovers there which the tyres are flat. They've got mould growing all over them. They haven't been moved in several months kind of deal. And it's become more acute because now the Butts Clinic has transferred hands to Carlson's. And the residents who used to park there have been displaced. They're sort of competing for the road space with that garage and the other users of that area. So it's something that I think Pembroke could look at, and also the liaison committee in that area.
Okay, so it's parking on boats, garage cars, problems for residents. I'm probably compounded at the moment by the work that Phil Trucks are doing as well.
And then there is also a strong issue of pavement parking down that stretch towards the park, where there's not enough room
to get past.
For people to go past 2 cars at a time anyway when they're parked. So they could just park on the road, not on the pavement, it wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
But they tend to block the road and the pavement at the same time.
So people with vans can't get past and they have to go on the road.
Yeah, to go on the road.
Another one, Earby, Skipton Road, quite a significant number of complaints with HGVs thundering through at speed and causing a lot of concern. And of course, I mean, we've got the perennial of speeding traffic through Earby anyway, on the A56 and through Colebrook, where we've got the long-standing request for average speed cameras, but the particular issue at the moment appears to be the wagons and the speed with which they're coming into the town. Tom?
I'd once again propose 20 mile per hour speed limits in the built-up areas in all the towns in West Craven.
Well, yeah, that's fine, but at the moment there's 30 mile an hour limits and they're thundering through far faster, so it's a case of how is it enforced, no matter what the limit is.
Yeah.
Are there any other traffic matters that people want to pick up? If not, can we know the report? Yeah, together with a request that the appropriate authorities pick up those issues. Yeah. Item 9 is Spring Mill, and it says former compound area, but it's the current compound area at the minute, and will be for some time. We had a meeting with Earby Town Council, was it last week? Week before? Seems a long time ago, but there you go. So essentially, the Earby Town Council said, well, they're not interested in doing a pump track, but they are keen to create a woodland, wetland area. And my suggestion at the meeting was that Town Council reconsidered its decision that they wouldn't be interested in taking responsibility for the land. Amanda, I don't think you'll have the opportunity to reconsider that yet. So I think the outcome of the meeting is that Earby Town Council will reconsider its stance in terms of future maintenance liability and whether they would accept transfer of the land to the Town Council. So can I suggest that we have a report back in due course in order for us then to have a dialogue with the developers to see what they are prepared to do to that end. Yeah. Thank you. Item 10, pharmacy provision. Oh, sorry, Victoria Road Bathing. Well, there was a discussion about the UK SPF funded work. There was issues that the engineering services manager agreed to look into, and he will be reporting back to us in due course. Is that fair?
Yeah, these things that are going to come up later on, we're going to find out and that's the end of the discussion. I think so that was discussed.
Good. Thank you, Amanda. I'm trying to get forward because they didn't talk. The electric people, they weren't fast. Sorry, they'll be watching this on playback, won't they? Hi, right, Phil. We weren't criticising you for taking half an hour. It was an important issue, and you don't often get the general manager of Northern Power Grid sat in the room. And if I'd realised we were going to get the general manager of Northern Power Grid, I think we'd have assembled a long list of complaints. Like the power cuts, what we get all too frequently. Item 10, pharmacy provision in West Craven. And I mean, we've got this rather anodyne couple of paragraphs. Our recent pharmacists having experienced increased pressure to deliver services with more patients. The pressure that we see in Barnoldswick are not uncommon, felt nationally by pharmacies. As an ICB, we are committed to supporting pharmacies as much as we can within our remit. We have visited both pharmacies within Barnoldswick to discuss the issues they are having in providing services, and these conversations will continue. More recently, we've been made aware that Whitworth branch is going through a change of ownership. Well, it changed ownership a couple of months ago, and we will ensure that that is given to the new owner. So obviously they haven't visited them in the last 2 or 3 months, have they? To be honest, I don't find that response very reassuring. This is Chris Church's purview, and he's no doubt going to come in a moment. But since we last discussed it in the committee, it's become apparent that at least one of the pharmacies are issuing drugs on the register, replacement drugs, over the counter, insisting that people consume them like stood at the counter, which I find utterly unacceptable. So I don't think control drugs should be given in that way. So I do think we benefit from asking the ICB to come along and actually having a serious discussion about the pharmacies. Could perhaps come at the same time as the ambulance people and with our health service jamboree. Because I'm going to raise some when we get to outstanding issues, which will be highly relevant as well. So Chris, and then is it Tom? Chris?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. This does smack as one of those replies that was written by the PR department and not their technical people. I don't know whether I'm being over cynical there. We do still have the problem. It's a serious problem. I know about. I have actually witnessed the matter of a prescription patient.
With controlled drugs.
Controlled drugs, yeah. I've actually been made to take the material standing at the counter, which, among other things, causes children to say, what's that lady doing and why, and everything like that. As you say, it's something that should be done in private. Can I say we are optimistic if Whitworth has changed ownership? I understand that it's to be a smaller unit bought from the chain. I'm not sure exactly whether this is the case. I don't know how much they are in the swing of it by now, with, as you say, only 2 months past. I think, firstly, I agree with you entirely that we should, I wouldn't say summon, politely request them to attend at some future meeting. And whether or not we have seen any improvement by then, I don't know. But we certainly ought to expect something more than an off-bat statement like this.
Thank you very much. Tom?
Thank you, Chair. Another issue with the controlled substance prescriptions, especially ADHD medication, is if your doctor prescribes one particular thing, say a brand, and you go to the pharmacy and they're out of stock and they can't order it from the manufacturer, they cannot swap to an alternative. By law, you have to be prescribed exactly that medication, even if an alternative brand exists. That's essentially the same thing. And I wonder if the integrated care boards are taking that up with government and trying to provide better customer care for those people who do require that medication and are suffering greatly under the current shortages, which are just, long-lasting, just ever-present. and it's affecting people's lives. I know it's greater than this pharmacy, it's greater than the ICB, it is a government thing, but you know, there really should be championing patient care across all the medication and support.
Absolutely. Any further comments on that? So, as I understand it, we're thanking the ICB for the response, but given the continuing problems and the additional issue that just highlighted, that we do ask that they attend a meeting in due course. Yeah? Yeah. Item 11, premises improvement grant. We've got a brief report setting out how many applications there have been, if any, and requesting funding for allocation in the next financial year. Could I suggest that we note the report and consider the funding request together with considering the rest of the programme at the next meeting? Yeah? We agreed on that? Thank you very much. Well, I think leave it till next meeting. Might be additional members, change of membership, you never know. Item 12, update on youth provision, and Tim Horsley, who's been looking into this, he says in Earby the detached youth work continues. However, I'm not aware of any progress on securing a venue or resources for youth sessions. So that's something that we need to press for, or continue to press for. In Barnoldswick, the joint work of the Children and Family Wellbeing Service and the volunteer group continues to work well and grow. Tim says that please continue to report a reduction in town centre antisocial behaviour. However, things did kick off last Friday when we had various groups running the mark, and they wrecked the Eco Barnoldswick sign that I referred to earlier on. The volunteer group are extending their sessions to a further evening when they'll have a younger age group that they will be catering for, so that's all to the good. However, the County Council still hasn't entered into a dialogue with the Town Council with the view to entering into a new lease, and as far as the Town Council go, Lancashire County Council still want to come out of the building, so it's about time the County Council started talking to each other and said exactly what they wanted to do. As far as Earby is concerned, the obvious location for youth facilities is at New Road Community Centre. So I think if the committee can reiterate that request, that'd be good. Got Tom now. Tom?
Thanks, Chair. I mean, I wouldn't agree with the police's assessment on sort of antisocial behaviour of young people. I mean, every single time I've been uptown of an evening in Barnoldswick, in like the past couple of months, there's been sort of large groups of youths, very noisy, running around, just sort of messing with people on the street, especially in the bus stop area on the town square. I mean, it's been quite shocking, really. Don't think it's ever been as bad, I would say. So, I mean, it is all the more important that we get some proper youth provision in place. I mean, that sort of intervention is the most effective. I don't really think a greater police presence would particularly help the situation. And yeah, I think it's good we've got some movement, but we need something better from LCC.
Thank you. Amanda?
I just want to ask, Tim, what did you say the second name was?
Horsley.
And what is it that is running at the moment?
No, Tim's Pendle Council's antisocial behaviour officer. So he has quite a lot of contact with the different agencies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what did you say you were something in the
Yeah, the outreach workers have been working in Early, but what we've been trying to do is get the county council to have a permanent, well, sessional presence in New Road Community Centre.
Interesting having that as an item on the agenda for the town council as well to find out a bit more about.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure that we're getting very far with actually county council, but yes, it'd be good if the town council could lend a weight to the pleas for the county council to get the finger out really. Yeah? Good. Sorry I'm looking before, I'm trying to get the response to the next item, but are we okay with youth provision? Nods. Nods. Very good. Thank you very much. Mr Walker's got it up on his phone now. Item 13 we've already dealt with. Item 14, items for the discussion. And the first one is Royal Mail. Councillor Tomwell.
Yeah, I mean we've seen continual disruption to the postal service. People missing doctor's appointments, surgical appointments, just everything because the post has been delivered in batches far too late, past the way past the time advertised for second class post, first class post, etc. And we've just got responses back from the postal service saying everything's fine, we don't know what you're talking about. I think it's a completely unacceptable level of service. I know the town council has gathered some evidence from residents to put in official complaints, as a series of complaints. But I think we should make representations as a committee here to say that it's unacceptable, and to ask that the general manager come and sit before us, just such as National Power Grid did.
Okay. I'd be delighted if we could manage such a feat. I suspect it might be beyond us. In terms of making life easy for Joanne, Barnoldswick Town Council has gathered a very long list of complaints from all over West Craven, Eby, Salford, as well as Barnoldswick, and a lot of that stuff is pretty heartrending, where people, they've missed cancer appointments, they've missed antenatal appointments, ultrasound scans, court. Well, previously we had a court issue, not come up this time round. The town council has learned the email address of the person in charge of complaints to the chair and chief executive of Royal Mail. So rather than going to customer services, the town council is going to the top. So if Joe at the town council can liaise with Joanne at Pendle Council, we can, from this area committee, broaden the complaint to the whole of West Craven and link it with the town council one, two for the price of one. Is that acceptable? Any further comments on that one? No. Okay, the next one is the lay-by at West Craven High School, where there are some enormous craters, perhaps not as deep as the one that's been causing mayhem to the traffic lights in Barnoldswick last night, where at one point there were seven broken down cars at the side of the road. Well, I say broken down cars, broken down vehicles. One of them was a van who had gone into this huge crater created by Lancashire County Council last Tuesday. They reinstated it, and the whatever they'd reinstated with just dropped to bits in no time. So, coming back to the West Craven High School one, these craters are not perhaps as deep, but they're probably as extensive, sorry, we need your thumbprint. Originally, the Academy said that they were going to resurface the lay-by last summer. Is that right, John? Summer?
Yeah.
And when it hadn't been done, we picked it up with them. They said that we'll do it at the earliest opportunity. We've got an email from them recently to say, could you please update the committee and apologise, because it's our priority to address the problematic bus lay-by at West Craven High School, and this is still our intention, but this was one of the number of issues that we inherited. They've invested over £2 million, the bus lay-by has always been on that to-do list, but I'm sure you can appreciate that all of the high-value work had to supersede the project. Unfortunately, due to limited capital funding, we are not in a position to commit to completing the bus lay-by at this time. The project remains on hold, and plans will be reconsidered in the context of the next financial year. I can report, thank you Mr Walker, I can report that one parent contacted me who wrecked her suspension or steering or both in the craters on that lay-by. They are liable for so much damage that I'm just gobsmacked that they haven't repaired it, and you know it's utterly unacceptable to leave it in that condition. They've not even made any attempt to make it safe, or indeed, you know, take the lay-by out of use so that you know people aren't at serious risk of injury or damage. Just incredible. So I think as a committee we ought to be banging back at them and saying, look, you know, come on, you're liable. This isn't something, you know, that's on the desirable list. You know, it's not the could do category, it's the must do category that should be right up at the top of safety items that need to be carried out. Does anybody else want to bang on about it? No? Is that enough banging on about it? Yeah. Would you agree with my sentiments?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Outstanding items. Pilkington Bus Company. I actually bumped into Alan Pilkington at the event in Barnoldswick last Saturday and mentioned we wanted a meeting with him together with the town council and together with the county council, and he said yeah, we're up for that. So I think we could bring a meeting on as long as Ashley here from county council is available in short order. The other one that isn't on the list, but we have got on the outstanding item, is the clinic provision in Barnoldswick. It's come to our attention in just the last couple of days that services that were due to relocate from Bucks into the new Porky Clinic in the former Yorkshire Bank at the bottom of Newtown are only going to be provided in Cone, and that people who were expecting to get seen in Barnoldswick are now having to go to Cone. The facility that NHS built in the Rainbow Centre at vast expense 4 or 5 years ago has all been ripped out at vast expense, and the space turned back into offices. Apart from Airedale midwives, there's nobody in what's called now the Newtown Clinic, former Yorkshire Bank, and as Councillor Tomwick mentioned earlier on, Butt's Clinic as was appears now to have been purchased by Filtrox and is being used by the company, and no doubt will be subject to redevelopment in the future. So, as far as access to health services is concerned, it's a bit of a disaster area, and I think as a matter of urgency, we ought to be banging the table and getting NHS property services, ICB, Uncle Tom Collie and all around the table to find out what on earth is going on. Tom?
Thank you, Chair. I mean, it's completely unacceptable that a township the size of Barnoldswick and, of course, the surrounding villages and area as well doesn't have local provision in place. I think that, the idea that people should be forced to travel all the way to Colne, it's upwards of half an hour on the bus sometimes, is just unreliable and shouldn't be expected of people in that situation. Not everyone can quickly drive to Colne in 20 minutes. It's not a sustainable way of operating for the NHS in its care, and that's what's most important to me. It's that we provide adequate care, and obviously the service there is just not doing that. It's saying, no, you've got to travel, and that can be very difficult for some people. So yeah, strongest possible representations.
Yeah, Susan.
This provision sounds like it's some farm up the top of a remote hill, not a big town, that they should be providing these services for.
Yeah.
I can't believe that there's nothing been put in place to replace books.
Oh, it's beyond belief, yeah. Yeah, Mick?
Yeah, wasn't we given assurances not too long ago on a diary that the Newtown Clinic would actually be a stopgap?
Yeah.
And they hadn't forgotten about us. They are going to build a new clinic for us. This is just a temporary fix whilst we went through all the planning protocols, building as a clinic that's suitable for the towns surrounding towns' needs. Do we need to readdress that Teams meeting that we had? Chris, I'm sorry, you might know, I can't remember who it was we actually spoke to, but we seem to have quite a lot of understanding on how the NHS system worked, and assured us on that meeting that we would see something fairly soon. That must have been well over a year ago now.
Oh, yeah. And it was senior planning managers and it was high powered and we're going to do this, that and the other. It looks like they're just sort of saying, well, sod off, you're getting knocked. So, yeah, it is an outstanding item, and I think what is being said is, we need to get these people in a meeting again and say, look, you said this and you've done that, not good enough.
Yeah, they don't seem to have filled that small stopgap.
No.
Yeah, it's the only one that's in there at the moment. So.
Yeah. And I mean, what a little bird has told me is that there's a question mark about their occupancy of the building that they spent a fortune on. So it's just unbelievable if even half of what I've heard comes through, not comes true, but is true. Get me drift. Yeah.
I know they are completely unconnected, but it makes it all the more depressing that this is happening at the same time as we're hearing the news about the leisure centres.
Yeah.
thin end. Again.
Yeah. Well, I think the EAB would say we get the thin end after Barlett gets the slightly thicker end.
I will paraphrase that, but it doesn't scan quite as well. Barley and EAB get the thin end again.
West Craven.
Yes.
I think, yeah, West Craven. We'll all get behind that. Yeah. And you know, to be honest, a clinic facility you know, does serve the whole of West Craven. You know, it isn't limited to residents in one place or the other. Okay, we've generally agreed on that. Are we noting the rest of the outstanding issues? Yeah?
Yes.
Right. It comes to the point of the meeting where we have to exclude public and press in order to discuss some confidential items. So would somebody move the appropriate resolution? It's moved and seconded, all those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Can I thank everybody that's watched us on YouTube, on the live stream. I do hope it's worked this time, but we will find out later. Tom's shaking his head.
It's got about 400 kilobits, which is nothing.
All right.
So they might have been getting the upgrade.
So it might be stuttering along. 5G coverage in EAB, that's what we want. Yeah. What do we want? 5G.